So for people who don't keep across this in detail, and we've heard so much about it for so long, tell us why this is so significant today.
For a number of reasons, one of which is that this guy who has testified today, Gordon Sondland, has been up until basically today very close to Donald Trump, and his story has essentially aligned with Donald Trump with regards to the president's interactions with Ukraine. The backstory is that Donald Trump, according to the testimony, ordered that military aid be stopped to Ukraine and said that the new president of Ukraine would not get a White House meeting with him unless the new president of Ukraine announced investigations into Joe Biden, one of his chief political rivals. And Gordon Sondland, who is a Trump donor and was appointed to his position by Donald Trump, up until now basically said, the president said it wasn't a quid pro quo, that there wasn't a transactional relationship here. It was two separate events. That's what the president told me. Today, essentially, he said, was there a quid pro quo? Obviously, there was a quid pro quo.
So has he changed his story? Or
kind of. And this was the subject of a few questions as to why he has become a little bit harsher on Donald Trump and why he's been more explicit about there really being a quid pro quo. That could be down to the fact that some of his colleagues have already testified that there was. He says that the White House is preventing him from getting access to his notes and his call logs and that sort of thing. And so perhaps his memory would have been better if he had access to all of those documents beforehand. But this is huge. I mean, this is a very close ally of Donald Trump saying, yes, the thing that you are alleging Donald Trump did, the thing that has started this impeachment inquiry, obviously happened.
And Donald Trump has denied this flat out. He says there was no quid pro quo.
Yeah, Donald Trump has said, I said there's no quid pro quo. I have told everybody involved that there was no quid pro quo and therefore there isn't, which is kind of the level we're at here. Donald Trump says my word is enough to prove that I didn't do it, even though all of these people who were close to the president, involved in the process, spoke to everybody involved, both presidents included, are saying that this did happen.
But can't they just listen to a phone call to prove that it did or it didn't, rather than take all this testimony? Like, is there hard evidence that this did actually happen?
Well, there's the transcript of the phone call between the two presidents, which I guess does not explicitly include the words, Mr. President of Ukraine, I will not give you this money unless you do this. It's kind of like, will you do me a favour? We'd love to give you these things. I need a favour though. Can you do these investigations? It's not quite as explicit. And so what the point of all this testimony is basically saying, what was the president's motivation when he said this? Was the president really trying to engage in a quid pro quo here? And essentially, everybody who was close to the president, including sitting ambassadors who the president appointed to their roles, is saying that he was.
And so why will this be so outrageous if he was insisting on this?
Well, this is the argument that the Democrats make is that this is abuse of office. The president was using things that are available to him because he is the president to try and influence another country into helping him. Donald Trump was using taxpayer-funded, congressionally approved money to essentially, according to the Democrats, extort Ukraine into helping him. They have not proven, nobody's come out from the Trump side and said, yes, we were engaged in an extortion racket, but this is what the Democrats are trying to prove.
Was Trump's line initially on this that, well, if I was doing that, it's worthwhile anyway because we need the Ukrainians to investigate these sorts of things? Wasn't he initially kind of saying that anyway?
Yeah, so Donald Trump essentially said that, we wanted corruption investigated in Ukraine. This is all about corruption. But the thing is that, and what a number of people have testified to, is that the only corruption he was interested in was the corruption that related to Joe Biden.
So the key is, will this be enough to tip enough Republican senators over the line in an impeachment hearing in the Senate?
I guess the answer is almost certainly not. It seems very unlikely. The Republican Party have not shown any indication that they're keen on splitting from Donald Trump. The president's popularity among Republican voters hasn't shifted really during this entire process. And so Republican senators know that if they don't want to get run over in a primary contest next year before the election, then they really need to keep Donald Trump's voters on side, and so they're unlikely to abandon him.
Okay, we'll leave that for a moment. Cheers, Matt.
Thanks, Joe.
And you can catch Matt's podcast. Geez, we've even got the graphic now.
Yep.
Russia, if you're listening on the ABC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts, there's a new episode released every Monday.